to ask about these men. And the lawyer at the base in Iraq says, you can't surrender to a helicopter. And so they blow them away. Now, I think that if people knew about what happened then, there would have been an outcry and there would have been an investigation. And who knows what would have happened. Maybe there would have been charges. But if we knew then what had happened, I don't think what happened 5 months later would have happened. And that was July 12, 2007, the same Iraqi helicopter, the same U.S. helicopter gunship unit attacks a group in New Baghdad, a neighborhood Baghdad. And the reason we know this is because WikiLeaks released the videotape as well as the descriptions. The videotape is chilling. It's not by peace activists on the ground. It's by the Apache military helicopter filming what it's doing. The audio track is the laughter, the cursing of the soldiers in the Apache helicopter. They see a group of men below. Who were those men? Well, we now know they were Namir Nuraldi, 22-year-old Reuters employee, up-and-coming videographer, as well as his driver, Saeed Shema. He was 40 years old. He was a father of 4, who was beloved by the whole Reuters community because he would take people around. He knew the area well. Very brave. And the Apache helicopter gunship opened fire on this group of men. The Iraqis in that neighborhood were showing these journalists around. And they blew them away. I think it was Saeed Shema who didn't quite die in the first explosion. He's crawling away and you hear the soldiers saying, let him dare reach for something that looks like a gun and we will blow him away. And then a van pulls up and, to help him. And this is a war crime when people pull up to give medical assistance. And they explode the van. There were 2 children in the van, critically wounded, and then other people in the van were killed, as was Saeed Shema. 12 people were killed on that day, children critically wounded. Reuters tried to get the video footage applied under the Freedom of Information Act over and over again. They never got it, and then WikiLeaks releases them all at once. We learned about all of this in all different ways because we had on a soldier a little while later, not realizing he had been a part of this, in 2 different situations. One was a soldier who was marching with other soldiers back here in the United States between Walter Reed and Arlington Cemetery to demand that Obama stop sending soldiers with PTSD back to Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I was talking to him about his own experience, what it was like, and he said, it was terrible that he was slowly killing himself, that he was suffering terribly from PTSD. This a soldier I interviewed on Democracy Now! And I said, well, what did you experience in that? He said, well, you know, there was this day, it was July 12, 2007. He said, and I was a soldier who came and found these children in a van that had just been blown up, and I could not get them out of my mind. They were so seriously injured. And when I went back to base, I said to my commanding officer, I need help. I just have them burned into my brain. And he said, suck it up. And you know, these soldiers need help. 1/4 to 1/3 of them are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And the violence that is rippling through all of our communities as a result cannot be underestimated. We talked to another soldier who was in the same unit, had a cold that day, so didn't go out on the plane on July 12th. And we got him on the air, and he talked about what the soldiers said when they came back. And he said, I don't get it. Why do you keep focusing on this one incident? We said, well, I mean, you know, they opened fire on civilians, they killed 12 people, they critically injured 2 children. And he said, I know, but, you know, we do this every day. Yeah. That's why WikiLeaks is so important, and how it fits into the Tunisian uprising is that in the U.S. diplomatic cables that were released, the U.S. description of the Tunisian regime that was released and the Tunisian people heard about was that it was a despotic, corrupt regime that the U.S. government kept supporting. It's not that the Tunisians didn't know this, but that the U.S. knew it, and it was all documented, just infuriated them further. That's how it tied in. So WikiLeaks, Mohammed Bouaziz himself, these were the sparks of this revolution. For decades in the region, people have lived under dictatorships, many that receive U.S. military aid, suffering human rights abuses, along with low income, high unemployment, and almost no freedom of speech. All this while the elites amassed fortunes. Well, similar grievances underlie the conflicts in Wisconsin and Ohio. The Great Recession of 2008, according to economist Dean Baker, is now in its 37th month with no sign of relenting. In a recent paper, Baker says that due to the financial crisis, many political figures have argued the need to drastically reduce the generosity of public sector pensions and possibly to default on pension obligations already incurred. Most of the pension shortfall is attributable to the plunge in the stock market, Baker said, in the years 2007 to 2009. In other words, Wall Street hucksters selling the complex mortgage-backed securities that provoke the collapse are the ones who caused any pension shortfall. We also talked to the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist David K. Johnston, who used to write for the New York Times, now writes for Tax.com, who said the average Wisconsin state employee gets $24,500 a year. That's not a very big pension. 15% of the money going into it each year is being paid out to Wall Street to manage the money. That's a really huge, high percentage to pay out to Wall Street to manage the money. So while the investment bankers skim a huge percentage off pension funds, it's the workers who are being demonized and asked to make the sacrifices. Those who caused the problems, who then got lavish bailouts and now are treated to huge salaries and bonuses, are not being held accountable. Following the money, it turns out Walker's campaign was funded by, well, the notorious Koch brothers, major backers of the Tea Party organizations. I dare say the Koch brothers would never have tea with the Tea Party activists that they are funding. They gave $1 million to the Republican Governors Association, so did Rupert Murdoch give $1 million to the Republican Governors Association, which gave substantial support to Walker's campaign. Is it surprising that Walker supports corporations with tax breaks and has launched a massive attack on unionized public sector employees? And then you go back in the Koch's history. Their father, Fred Koch, co-founder of the John Birch Society. And what that means, the racist, segregationist John Birch Society that fought the civil rights movement, Dr. King, and all that he represented. The workers of Egypt were instrumental in bringing down the regime. They were in a remarkable coalition with Egypt's youth. In the streets of Madison under the Capitol Dome, another demonstration of solidarity is taking place. Wisconsin's workers have agreed to pay and pension concessions, but will not give up their right to collective bargaining. At this point, Walker would be wise to negotiate. It is not a good season to be a tyrant. Unions and why they're under attack now. Well, public media and public employee unions. Public media, and especially here with your congressional representatives who are at the heart of the attempts to cut back public media. No less than 5 bills have been introduced over the last weeks. 2 Saturdays ago, the House voted to completely zero out the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, $460 million. They didn't, pass the Senate yet or go to Obama's desk, but that's the effort. And they're trying it every which way at a time when we need public media more than ever. And public unions. Unions in this country, what they need. I can be with you tonight because this is a weekend. Who got us the weekend, right? Unions got us the weekend. Who got us the 40-hour work week, something I dream about all the time.